Hello, my name is Andrew. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be showing you my March reading wrap up, all the books I've read this month. I'm not gonna lie, it's only a little bit of books, only 7 books. I didn't read the full month of March. I just started reading like mid-March, to be honest, if I'm being real. But I did have some really good reads. I did have a couple 5-star reads in here, which I'm very grateful for, because there was a lot of lows too. Not a lot, but there was one book in particular that I did not like at all, but I've just like kind of forced myself to finish. But we'll get into that later. Let's just get right into it. So the first book that I have is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Whew, I get why this book is hyped. So I've heard this book was good for many months, but I was reluctant to pick it up only because, I don't know, I'm kind of a hater. I didn't know if it was going to be good or not, but I read it and I fell in love with it. It's really good. It's such a good book. So if you have no idea what this book is about, it's basically about, it's a retelling of it's a retelling of the story of Achilles during the Trojan War. Those are the words I was looking for. So it follows Achilles, but it's narrated by his best friend, Patroclus, and I think that's how you say his name, right? I don't know how to read these Greek words, but I think that's how you say it. Yeah, so it's narrated by him, and it just basically tells a story about them growing up together, how they fought in the war together, and eventually became more than just friends, which is pretty interesting. So this is an adult novel, so there is some mature themes in here. It does get pretty graphic, I would say. I don't know, it makes it more realistic in my eyes. Like you can actually visualize a lot that's happening in the story. When I was reading it and the author was describing the settings and stuff, I can picture it in my mind very clearly. I usually don't do that with the books, but the way this author writes, who's clearly talented, they have a beautiful writing style. Her writing style is really top-notch, because even though it's a retelling of like this old Greek like story, she makes it easier to understand. There is some old like English in there. She makes it more understandable for the modern generation, you know, modern audience, which is very nice. And the love story itself, man, all I'm gonna say is this last like 100, like not 100, like 50 pages I think of the book is, man, that shit's heartbreaking, but in like the best way possible. Like, it didn't make me cry. I was close though. So I did give this book 5 stars. This is the first 5-star read, and this read pretty much got me out of a reading slump. I was in a reading slump for like over a year. I had books that I wanted to read, but I just didn't have the energy for. But this book brought me out of it, and that's why I started reading again. This would be a good read if you are interested in Greek mythology, because they do mention the gods in here like quite a bit, like only the ones that are important to the story. This book did get me out of a reading slump, so maybe it would help you get out of one too. So the second book I read this month, it was If He Had Been With Me by Lauren Allen. This book I have very mixed emotions about. For the most part, it was enjoyable-ish. The writing was interesting enough to keep me intrigued, but by the end I grew bored of it, and the ending did not make me emotional. I felt nothing when I read it. I didn't feel like shock. I did feel something. I felt anger. Anger because it took almost 400 pages and just for it not to end the way I wanted to end. Like, I know that's like the point of this book. It's just, if you didn't know, it's like a romance, but like a tragedy. It's giving very much Shakespeare, but the ending itself was weak. It felt very rushed and it felt cheap. Like a cheap way out to like get this shocking ending because the story itself wasn't very good. I'm probably gonna get some hate out of this one, but this book itself was not very good. Like it basically like foreshadows the ending like at the very beginning of the book, and that's supposed to keep you intrigued. But like the in-between stuff, very boring. And the main character, Autumn, oh, she pisses me off. She is a pick-me girl to the fullest. She's like, oh,
I'm not like one of those other girls. I wear 2 hours with my outfits because I'm cool.
Like, no, like, I don't know, just her, she's very annoying, and like, it's obvious that she's in love with her best friend Finn. If you didn't know, that's what the story's about. But she's still dating her boyfriend. That's what I will give this book its props. Their side characters are way more interesting than the main one, like her at least. Finn is way more interesting than Autumn in my opinion, and Autumn is the narrator of this book. Maybe that's the way the author intended it, but as a reader, you want your main characters to be interesting enough to compel you to keep on reading. But I was mainly reading it for her friends, like, and Finn, to be honest. Like, Autumn is very boring. There was some aspects to her character that are interesting, like her parents were interesting. I'm not gonna go into too much details. I don't know if you want to read it, but if you do, good for you. I do not really recommend it unless like you just want to know what it's about. And like, yeah, sure, go for it. That makes it sound like it's terrible. It's not a terrible book. It's just very mediocre. So if you're gonna read this book, don't give it such high expectations like people present on TikTok, because it's not that good. I gave it 3 stars. There was some aspects that are good in it, other aspects that really downgraded it like a lot. That's this one. If you want to read it, good for you. But I cannot do with that. Alright, so the next book that I did end up reading this month was We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. Now this book on the other hand really brought me up. It's still like a really good book. I just feel like people have skewed expectations out of this. Go on with the blank slate. Do not read anything about this book, because by the end you're gonna be like, what the hell just happened? This book is about this family, the Sinclair's family. The main narrator is not a reliable narrator because she forgot a very traumatic experience, and like her brain would not process anything. She gets headaches very easily. Oh, this book. But I will say it's because of that makes a book interesting. Do I think it's a perfect book? No, but it did make me feel something, and the characters are written really well to the point like you do feel for them, especially like towards the end. Once the twist comes in, you understand why they're acting the way they do. It was so sweet at the end. I felt a lot when I finished the ending. I gave this book 4 stars. It's so much fun. It kind of is that's not a thriller. It's not, because it's not like, oh my gosh, it's so scary or stuff like that. This book is very good. I do recommend this book a lot. Yeah, this book is really good. So the next book I read in the month of March is Beach Read by Emily Henry. Oh, this book is so much fun. This was the first like adult romance that I read in like ever, maybe. I mainly read YA for a while, and I think maybe that's why I got into a reading slump, because I didn't switch it up. But this book is really fun and so sweet. But I will say, like, even though like with the sweetness and stuff, there is like a deeper meaning to this book, like more emotion than like a typical romance is in a way. I mean, like, there's like way more to just the writing than just like, oh my gosh, having sex and stuff. Like, if you watch my my April TBR, I said this. So if you don't know, this book follows January Andrews and Augustus Everett, which are the 2 main characters. They went to college together, and January's head Augustus never liked her, but that is quite the opposite. So this is an enemies to lovers story. If you don't know, it does say the polar opposites, and I like how the author Emily Henry made the characters' names reflect that. Like, because one is January Andrews, you know, representing like winter, and one is Augustus Everett, or if you short it down, August, you know, like summertime, like quite the opposite. I don't know, that just picked up on that, and like it has nothing to do with the story. Not really, at least. This book really did make me feel something. If you want a good introduction to Emily Henry's writing, I do recommend this one. I gave this one 4 stars. It really is such a fun, nice, enjoyable read. I read this in like 2 days. Like, most of them I read pretty fast. There was some things in the book that made me not give it 5 stars, but there was some sections of the book where I was like kind of getting a little bored.
Not gonna lie.
Overall, I think it wrapped it pretty nicely. 4 stars. Alright. So this next one. Ooh. This one is Department of Speculation by Jenny Ophel. This book is not good. I didn't get it. When I read the back of it when I was shopping at Barnes & Noble, as it says right there, I thought it was gonna be a little bit more than what it is. I feel like the back cover is kind of misleading. So if you didn't know, let me just explain it. The main characters, they have no names. It's the husband and the wife, and the narration in this book is weird. At the beginning, it's from the wife's perspective, and then out of nowhere, not out of nowhere, but as soon as like the traumatic events start happening, I feel like the author intended it to be like the wife disassociating from the situation and just referring to it as the wife. That was interesting, don't get me wrong. I do think this book is well written, but the plot itself, I feel like it led nowhere. It probably just wasn't for me. I probably need to reread it, but honestly, I kind of don't want to. There is some nice aspects of it. Like I said, the writing is one of them. I don't know. Sometimes I felt like the author was having random thoughts and just included it into the chapter just because. Yeah, this one is not good in my opinion. I did give this one 2 stars. I really have to say the author is talented. Like she has a good writing style, but maybe just not in this book. And also, this book is like very short, like less than 200 pages. And why is it still $16? This is a scam. All right, so the next book I have is one of them. So I'm so glad I read. It's Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book, wow, this book is fantastic. I really did enjoy this one. I was kind of reluctant to read it at first because of the writing style. So if you didn't know, this book is written in the interview styles. It shows like the character name and then what they're saying in the interview, and then it switches like perspectives to the next character. If you have no idea what this book is, which if you don't, why? It's about this rock group from the 1970s called Daisy Jones and the Six. It follows a timeline from when they recorded their first album together, because the Six was a band on its own. Spoiler, they were a band on their own and they already recorded an album, and so did Daisy Jones. They realized like they're each missing something, so the record label made them join together. So it follows like their the process of them recording like their one album together and them touring together, and it does show a lot of drug use, I will say, which is fairly common for rock bands in this timeline. Like it's like 1970s, everyone's coked up out of their mind. Yeah, and it follows that, and it just follows like the inner group troublings, like the inner group issues that they have with each other. I just like how it shows how one person's story is different from the other, because I mean, that's how stories are usually told anyways. That's why they always say there's 2 sides to every story. I mean, sometimes just 7. Yeah, so it's mainly just about that. It's kind of like, I believe this is the point of the book. It's basically just like, it's kind of like a retelling of Fleetwood Mac's in like drama, but like in a fictional book, which is kind of fun. We love drama in general. I don't love the ending. I like the way it ended. I think it was fine. The ending was good. In my opinion, it was just right. This isn't a perfect book in my opinion, but it's pretty close. So I did give it 4 stars. This book is great. All right, so we are down to the last book I read. I legit finished reading this yesterday. I'm recording this on April 1st, so happy April Fool's Day. So the last book I read this month was Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. Oh my god, this is such a great YA romance. It's a really fun book. It follows this Liz and her neighbor who she thought hated her guts, which is quite the opposite. In fact, she was so naive and like didn't bother like listening to anyone around her. It was so cute. So Liz is this hopeless romantic because she watched all these rom-coms growing up with her mom before she passed. So she had these unrealistic ideas of how romance should be. None of that is true. At least that's what she realizes as soon as she starts talking to her neighbor again. Make this scheme for her to set up basically a prom date with the boy she had a crush on. But yeah, this book is so much fun. It really does play out like a movie, like really well actually. There was one specific scene in mind. I won't say it unless, should I say it? No, I'm not gonna say it. But if you're gonna read this book, you're gonna know which scene I'm talking about. There is a specific scene, like I'll just say it, chapter 6 of this book. That whole chapter, I visualized it perfectly in my head. Like I said, I don't usually do that with these books, like with books in general. It's kind of hard for my imagination to start kicking in. I saw everything so vividly. I saw every setting, every background that this author painted. Get it? Painter. Yeah, everything was so visual and so surreal. And this is a rom-com, so it was pretty funny. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I actually was chuckling out loud. And I usually don't. Like, I keep those chuckles to myself. Just the dialogue between, like, the banter between these characters are, like, so interesting. Wes is like legit so funny. He's like one of the funniest characters I've read in a long time, and he's just like he's obviously like such a softie, but like he plays like I don't know why I did that, but he plays like inside he's a softie, but like on the outside he looks like this typical cool character, at least in the eyes of Liz. Yeah, this book is so much fun. It was such a fun and enjoyable time. I highly recommend this one. I did give this one 5 stars. It really has me wanting more. I do know that Lynn Painter is writing a sequel to this book, so I will be picking it up once it comes out. Whew. And that was all the books I read in the month of March, right? Yeah. So yeah, that was all the books I read this month. There was a lot of good ones, and a couple not so great ones. But I'm just so happy I'm finally getting back into reading. It's been so long since I've enjoyed a good book, and I've found a couple new favorites in this one, so I'm very happy with this month. But yeah, so that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day or night, depending on what time you're watching this video. If it's too late, go to bed. You might have shit to do in the morning. If you guys did like this video, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe down below. And leave me a comment letting me know which books you read this month, which ones were your favorite, how many did you read this month, whether it's 1, 2, or none. I don't care. Let me know how much it is down below. That's it. I hope you guys have a good one. Goodbye.